Have you ever heard the name Melchizedek, a priest of God Most High, who blessed Abram in the book of Genesis? If you aren't a Bible scholar, it's easy to overlook this name, but it was mentioned again in Psalms. Yet not so much attention was given to it until it reappeared again in the book of Hebrews with a strange description. Considering the significant attention the author of Hebrews accorded to this personality, it is worth our time to uncover who he is and what he represents. Who is this priest of the God Most High with no lineage? Does God have a priest? No word in the Bible should be treated lightly because the Holy Spirit inspired each word. It's high time we dug deep into the untold story of this strange being and his connection to us. Come along on this journey of discovery and ensure you stay tuned to the end because what you're about to discover will shock you. It all began in the book of Genesis, chapter 14, when Abraham encountered a mysterious figure named Melchizedek, not in a trance, but physically. The next question anyone should ask is, where did this happen, when, and how? At the time, kings who were once allies waged war in the Siddim Valley, which led to Lot, Abram's nephew, being taken prisoner. When Abram heard the news, he set out to reclaim his relatives and possessions. The Bible recorded that as Abraham returned from his victorious battle, he was greeted by the king of Sodom and the king of Salem, who was none other than Melchizedek, a priest of God Most High. While the king of Sodom attempted to negotiate and profit from the things Abram brought back, Melchizedek, the king of Salem, approached with bread and wine and blessed Abram. In return, Abram gave the first recorded tithe to honor the priest. Obviously, Melchizedek was a priest of high rank. From the reverence he received from Abram, it wouldn't be wrong to conclude that he is a faithful representative of God. Surprisingly, the Bible does not give any details about how he knew the Lord, but he calls the Lord El Elyon, the God Most High, maker of heaven and earth. We're not told if he's from the lineage of Seth, Noah, or Shem. All we know is that Melchizedek is a Canaanite who somehow knows Yahweh, which raises the question, what actually transpired between Abram and Melchizedek in Genesis 14? While there are many gaps in the narrative, one thing is clear. Melchizedek was introduced here to show that Abraham encountered Yahweh through a royal priest in Jerusalem. Mind you, this event occurred long before the time of the Levites appointed priests. Melchizedek was the first royal priest mentioned in the Bible. After Abram and Melchizedek parted ways, we did not hear the priest's name again until it was mentioned in Psalm 110. In this chapter, David paints a clear portrait of the promised seed, the Messiah, someone who has received the covenant oath of Yahweh, someone who David calls Lord, a common term used for kings. The psalmist further describes this seed as a conquering warrior, displaying dominance over his enemies in Psalm 110, verse 1. However, there is a surprising twist. The psalmist announces that this king will also be a priest, not from the expected lineage of Aaron, but from the order of Melchizedek. The psalmist also confirmed that this royal priesthood will endure forever. Arrayed in holy splendor, your young men will come to you like dew from the morning's womb. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. At this point, solving the puzzle of who Melchizedek is gets more complicated. Obviously, David wasn't referring to his earthly seed that would inherit his throne, and the only person referred to as the promised seed in the scriptures is Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. Could David be referring to him in this chapter? And if yes, what is the relationship between Jesus and Melchizedek in this chapter? Because he said, in the order of Melchizedek. Who is this strange divine personality called Melchizedek? On getting to the New Testament, we observed something interesting. In the book of Hebrews, the author skillfully compares the heroes and practices of the Old Testament with Jesus, demonstrating how Jesus surpasses and fulfills the figures and traditions of the Hebrew people. However, what is particularly striking is the sudden introduction of Melchizedek without any mention of his genealogy, birth, or death. Let's see Hebrews 7. Number 1. This Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him. Number 2. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, the name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Then also, king of Salem means king of peace. Number 3, without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. Number 4, just think how great he was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Number 5, now the law requires the descendants of Levi who became priests to collect a tenth from the people, that is, from their fellow Israelites, even though they are also descended from Abraham. Number 6, this man, however, did not trace his descent from Levi, yet he collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. In the subsequent verses, the author of Hebrews proclaims that Jesus is not the only ultimate king, but also the definitive high priest. Jesus reigns as king, enthroned on high for eternity. He was the needed priest who superseded the temporary priesthood of the Levites with an everlasting priesthood. Jesus did not descend from the lineage of Aaron. Rather, he holds the title of priest in the manner of Melchizedek, the mysterious priest-king of Jerusalem. This is key. In the ancient world, the legitimacy of a man's priesthood depended on his genealogy. The author's omission of Melchizedek's genealogy implies that Melchizedek did not attain his priesthood because of his ancestry. Rather, he was and remains a priest forever. Likewise, Jesus was appointed and remains a priest forever. Hebrews 5 verses 5 and 6 says, "In the same way, Christ did not take on himself the glory of becoming a high priest, but God said to him, 'You are my son. Today I become your father.'" 6. And he says in another place, "You are a priest forever, in the order of Melchizedek." This raises the question, if God appointed Jesus, who made Melchizedek a priest forever? Some scholars argue that Melchizedek is simply the word that became Jesus. Come to think of it, Melchizedek gave bread and wine to Abraham, something similar to the Lord's Supper. Only two biblical figures legitimately hold the titles of both king and priest, Melchizedek and Jesus Christ. Could Melchizedek be another son of God, or could he be the same as Jesus? To answer this, let's take a closer look at the book of Hebrews. It does not state that Melchizedek was the son of God. Instead, the author draws parallels between the two figures, implying that Melchizedek and Jesus are interwoven. Who then is Melchizedek? The answer is hidden in Hebrews 7. First, verse 1 of that chapter says that Melchizedek blessed Abram. The only person who was blessed in the Bible before the advent of priests was God himself. Remember, on different occasions, the Bible recorded that God blessed Abraham. Second, Melchizedek is not the son of God, because verse 3 says, "Without father or mother, without genealogy." Only God fits into this description. To date, the creation or origin of God remains a mystery. No one knows who created God. Compared to the description given about Jesus in the other chapter, Jesus is the Son of God. God is the Father of Jesus. Definitively, the Scriptures cannot contradict itself. Melchizedek isn't Jesus, simply because we know Jesus' origin and earthly lineage, but do not know that of Melchizedek or God. Also, in the same verse, pay attention to the phrase "without beginning of days" or "end of life." Only God has that attribute as the one without end, the Ancient of Days. Moreover, take note of another phrase, resembling the Son of God. Don't forget, the verse is still describing Melchizedek. He resembles the Son of God. Do you know that the only place again where any word similar to resembling was used in the Bible is in Genesis, where God said, "Let us create man in our own image." For there to be a resemblance between Melchizedek and Jesus, Jesus cannot be in the resemblance of someone else except God. When you put all the pieces of this complex puzzle together, it is safe to conclude that Melchizedek is God himself, the righteous one, and we are his children. The mysterious Melchizedek created us. Thanks for watching. If you liked our video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And while you're here, check out our other videos on this channel.